This is the charge for the class, okay? In Buddhism, sorry, I gotta put this away. In Buddhism, we're not allowed to teach unless someone asks, generally speaking. So when you offer mandala, it means you're asking someone to teach. And then we're allowed to teach. We're not allowed to hassle people. And the only thing worth, the only appropriate payment would be the whole universe, okay? And that's the mandala, all right? So the mandala represents the whole universe. And so you're offering payment for the class. The only thing that's close is the whole universe, all right? Okay. Cool. All right. Then that'll be after the mandala, okay? So we'll do the mandala first. Ready? And we're going to do it in the Tibetan words, so you can look at the pronunciation, okay? Sashi bugi jushi medo dram rira blingshi ninde gyambani sangye shindu mede uagi Dokun namda shina chubasho Yedam guru radha mandala kamnayadayami. Now next page is you're supposed to have two thoughts while you do this. One is thinking, tonight I'm going to spend on spiritual things and not on worldly things. And then secondly, I'm going to do it for other people. Okay, in the back of my mind, I'm going to try to do it for the sake of other people, thinking about other people. Okay, so try to get those two moods, and we'll do the next pair 3 times. Okay, do you want to lead it, Bruce? Yeah. Okay. I don't. Nona Benji Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chanan Sangye Chonama Chanchu Bardu Dani Gabsushi Ragi Chusegi Besangi Nona Benji Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chanan Sangye Chonama Chanchu Bardu Dani Gabsuchi Nagi Chusegi Besanangi Lola Benji Sangye Dubasho. Okay. So, the subject of this class is, it's called the 3 principal paths, all right? The 3 main paths of Buddhism. And what it really is 3 different attitudes. If you have those attitudes, then you understand Buddhism and you can reach the highest goals of Buddhism. And if you don't, you can't. So, there's really just 3 attitudes. It's just 3 things you have to know. So if by Sunday afternoon you know 3 attitudes better than you do now, that's the only goal of the class, is that you understand in theory those 3 attitudes. Then you have to go home and try to develop them, and that's harder. Okay, but the theory is, we can do theory in a weekend, all right? And those are called the 3 principal paths. I'd like to put the Tibetan on the board. There's people who, we have hundreds of students in New York taking these courses, and most of them said they would never learn Tibetan, and many of those people now are teaching courses in Tibetan. So I like to put it on the board. It gives a seed in your mind. It's also a blessing because the Tibetans spent, 1,000 years preserving this for us, and it's a blessing from them. And it puts a seed in your mind, even if you're not going to learn it in this life. You never know, okay? And so I'd like to put it in, I'll put it in Tibetan on the board, and you can make the sounds, okay? I'll ask you to repeat the sounds, and you just make noise, okay? We held our first classes were in a hotel room in New York with like 5 people, and they would sit on the bed and I would sit on the dresser, and the guys in the next room would be banging on the wall, you know, because they hear all these strange sounds coming out, you know, and they wondered what we were doing there. So don't be shy. There's nobody. You're not like in a hotel room. The 3 attitudes are called this. I taught for 10 years in that hotel room, and it got real crowded, and and it was just come or go as you please, and like that. And I got frustrated after 10 years because people weren't progressing like we do in a monastery. Monastery course is 18 years long, certain subjects each year, and at the end you finish, you take your exams, and you're done, and you know everything. And I got frustrated because people would come and go. So finally I made a rule. You have to do a certain course. You know, you have to come. If it's a 6-week course, you have to come 12 times. If you miss more than 2 for any reason, you're out. Doesn't matter, your mother died or whatever, you're out. And you have to do homework, and you have to do quizzes. And after like 3-4 years of that, I lost like 1/3 of the people. But the 2/3 who stayed they're really good now. They really understand Buddhism, and they really have progressed steadily. Until now, they could debate a monk pretty well, I think. And I like it, you know, so I'm very excited about it. So when people ask me to come for a weekend, this is supposed to be a 2-month course. And it's 10 lessons, but what we'd do is we just cover 5 of them. So you have all 10 there, and at your leisure you can look at them and you can study them. We also have a correspondence course. We have 700 people in correspondence courses, and they do it by tape, and they send their homeworks into New York and they get their homeworks done. And we don't charge anything. I've never been charged by my lamas in 25 years. They've never been asked for anything. And so we just, as far as possible, we say, here's what it costs. If you can do it, that's okay, and if not, that's okay too, and you're welcome to do it. And it comes, you know, it's working. So I'm not trying to sell it, okay? It's something you can do if you feel like it. The tapes are there, and we have 10 different courses, like how to meditate, what's karma, what's emptiness, what's the bodhisattva life, things like that. This is the very first one. So I'm going to ask you to do homeworks for the 5 classes that you're going to have, and to try to attend at least 4 of them. All right, and so you're going to get that. You're ready at the end of class, right? If they have those homeworks ready, yeah, okay, and then turn them in when you come tomorrow, and you'll have a little quiz. And it seems dumb or something like that. And I went to Boston, and this guy came up and said, "I'm not doing it," you know, and I said, "Yes, you are, or you can leave," you know. And then after the class, he was crying, and he said, "Thank you, you know, thank you. I learned so much." He probably learned something, you know. He retained something. So don't think it's dumb or high school stuff or something like that. It really helps. It helps you focus, and it helps you pay attention, and then you'll remember something, and you'll take home something, you know. So we'll do it that way. Okay, that's the deal. All right. Say lamso, and don't be shy. Just say lamso, lamso, namsum, lamso, namsum. Okay. Lam is the Tibetan word for path, like you've heard lam rim maybe, the steps of the path. Lam means a path. So means main one, the principal ones. Nam means types, and sum means 3. So it's the 3 main types of paths. Okay, the 3 main types of paths. It's been called, it's like the 3 principal paths. And then it got mistranslated as 3 principles of the path, which is wrong. And that's not the grammar. The Tibetan says 3 main paths. And it's 3 paths, because in Buddhism, say Lam. Well, you guys are sleepy. Lam, Topa. Okay, Lam and Topa are the same thing. Topa means to understand something spiritually, like an understanding or correct perception. And those are synonyms. So a Lam is not, in Buddhism, in philosophy, it's not like a series of steps like it is in Lam Rim. Here, Lam means 3 attitudes, 3 things you have to get in your head, and that's Lam. So a path means a pathway, or a way of thinking, and that's the meaning of Lam here. So there's three of them, and that's the point. It's not the 3 principles of one path; it's the 3 main paths of Buddhism. And if you have those 3 realizations or those 3 paths, you can reach the highest goals of Buddhism. And if you don't, then you can't. And that's the bottom line. And that's the book we're going to study. The little book you have in your notebook is a translation of that. The dark verses are the main text. There's 14 verses, and the rest is a commentary. I think it's good to know what you're studying. You know, I was in Dharamsala. I don't know if you, Ling Rinpoche was in the Patankot train station, and we didn't know it. And we were waiting for a train, and this is the Dalai Lama's senior teacher who passed away. And we were like 20 years old, and we were all excited, and we heard that he was in this room waiting for the train. So we ran and bought some cakes, and we came into the waiting room and with these cakes, and we said, can we meet him? And they said, yeah, and my Lama was there, the teacher at the library, Geshe Dargye, and he was standing behind Ling Rinpoche. And so we went in, and he says, what are you doing? You know, he's this very fierce Lama. And we said, we're studying at the Buddhist library in Dharamsala, you know. And he said, well, how do you like it? And we said, we love it, you know. And then he said, what are you studying? And we were like, and we didn't know the name of the book, you know, in Tibetan, you know. And Geshe Dargye was going, he was behind him, and he was like, trying to get us to say that, and we were like, you know, and it's very embarrassing if you don't know what you're studying, you know. I speak from experience, so if somebody asks you what you're studying, you say 3 principal paths, or the 3 main paths, and that's a book by say J, Tsongkhapa. J, Tsongkhapa. J means like Lord or High One or something like that, okay? Tsongkhapa is Tsongkhapa. There's a river called the Tsongkha that flows through East Tibet. And he was born in East Tibet. And he was the greatest saint of Tibetan Buddhism. And I'll give you his dates. I think it's good to know. He wrote 10,000 pages of text explaining Buddhism. I mean, if you divide up the years of his life by 10,000, it's like you don't know how he did it. And honestly, I can say that in the monastery, sometimes we take 1 page and spend a week or 2 all day working on it, studying it, and debating it. I mean, it's that extraordinary what he wrote. So how a man could, in one life, write 10,000 pages like that, of which, you know, we'll be lucky if we read a few hundred, is extraordinary. So we say he was actually coached by a Buddha named Manjushri, okay? There was this Buddha who is the Buddha of wisdom. And we can't see this Buddha, at least I can't, maybe you can, or maybe some people here can. But there's this Buddha named Manjushri, and he was, we believe that Jetsun Kappa was taking dictation from Manjushri. So then you can say, okay, 10,000 pages of extraordinarily difficult stuff. It makes sense. And I'm not, I don't like to believe in anything I can't see, and I mainly don't. But I can't believe that someone would write those things in one life unless something was going on. It's extraordinary. It's unbelievable. So I think it might be possible. Some people say he was Manjushri, okay, which makes it easier, I guess. But anyway, he wrote 10,000 pages about Buddhism. He had a favorite student, one of his favorite students. Oh, is this the right pen? Yeah. This is just so you know who wrote the book, okay? We'll get to the interesting stuff soon. All right, but it's in case you meet the Dalai Lama's teacher in Indianapolis or something, you'll be able to tell him who wrote the book. Say Ngawang? No. Drakpa? Ngawang? No. Drakpa. Ngawang Drakpa was one of his main students. The Jetsun Kappa had a lot of great students. The one that you would know is the first Dalai Lama. Was one of his students, and then Gyaltsab-je and Kidrup-je, who are in, well, this is Jetsun Kappa, by the way, right here. And probably, I would guess, this is Gyaltsab-je and this is Kidrup-je here.
Yeah, Gyaltsab-je on Kappa's right, and Kidrup-je's on his left.
So, those were his big students. Ngawang Drakpa was not one of his most famous students. Why? Ngawang Drakpa, after he had studied with Jetsun Kappa for a while, Jetsun Kappa called him into a room and said, okay, well, you live in East Tibet, right? And he said, yeah. And he came all the way to Middle Tibet. It's like going from New York to Indianapolis or something, Bloomington, right? And he said, you go back home now and come back when you finish building 100 monasteries, 108 monasteries. So Ngawang Drakpa I don't think he really wanted to go, but you have to obey your Lama. So he said, with pleasure, I'll go, I'll go build these 108 monasteries. And he did. In his life, he finished them. And it was a very sweet relationship because we have a lot of the correspondence between them. We still have. It's in Jetsun Kappa's collected works. So you have these very sweet letters from the Lama to the disciple that he basically exiled, out to this weird place where there wasn't much Buddhism, to try to start Buddhism going there. And Ngawang Drakpa did a great job. And he did found a lot of monasteries. And there are these sweet stories about he would have dreams about blowing conch shells, and then the conch shells would join together and become one and drop in his lap. And he had all these visions. And then Jetsun Kappa explained to him that this is their relationship, and that Ngawang Drakpa is going to spread Buddhism throughout East Tibet, which is the meaning of the conch shell in Buddhism. So he finished, and he did all that. One day he wrote a letter to Jetsun Kappa. Letter writing in Tibet in the 15th century was, I think it takes about 3 months or something. Somebody has to walk to Lhasa and deliver the letter. So you have Ngawang Drakpa asked Jetsun Kappa, could you summarize? I'm out here in the middle of nowhere with people who never learned Buddhism, and could you cut it down from 10,000 pages? So Jetsun Kappa sent him a sweet little letter, 14 verses. It's a poem with only 14 verses. And that is the three principal paths. That's the thing that you are going to study. He summarized all of Buddhism, the whole Buddhist path, from 10,000 pages down to 2 or 3 pages. And it's complete. The nice thing is he got everything in there. It's some kind of miracle, okay? We are doing a computer project now to restore the classical texts of Buddhism. And in Mongolia, we have 1.4 million books to do. In Russia, we have 200,000 to do. In India, we don't know. We estimate maybe 30,000, 40,000. But there are hundreds of thousands of Buddhist commentaries, or at least maybe 200,000 total something. And they all boil down to the three principal paths. I mean, according to Tsongkhapa, you can put all of them down to that. We have 3,500 books from ancient India that the Buddha spoke and that the great commentators, and those are in Tibetan and we have them. And we are preserving those on CD-ROMs. But according to Tsongkhapa, who read them, it all is in this book. The whole Buddhist path is in this book. If you get those three attitudes, if you understand those three attitudes, that's it. The whole Lam Rim teachings are in this book. Okay? So just understand these 14 verses and you understood all of Buddhism. So if you only have, 2 days in Bloomington, Indiana to learn all of Buddhism, this is a good book to start on. All right? He has another name. Say Tsako Wombo. You guys have to write this down because you have to put it on your homework, okay? Say Tsako Wombo. Tsako is a place out in eastern Tibet, okay? Wombo means, it's a very rare Tibetan word that means like friar. It's like a country priest. And that's what he was doing out in East Tibet. So his other name is Tsako Wombo. Why do we talk about that? Tsako is a kind of a lineage of some kings out in East Tibet. According to our tradition, after he died, he kept taking rebirth, and he became born as a person named Chankya. Rilpe Dorje, but I'm just going to put Chankya Rinpoche. Okay. Chankya Rinpoche was a very great Lama. He was Lama to the kings, to the emperors of China, the court Lama. Very, very important Lama in our lineage. And that's Chankya. Later on, Chankya kept taking rebirth. And he took rebirth as a Lama named Pabonka Rinpoche. Pabonka Rinpoche was a very special Lama. He came from the greatest Buddhist monastery in the world, which is my... okay. Which is the Saramay Tibetan Monastery.
Not Sarah Joy.
What's that? Sarah May had... Well, Sarah, traditionally, before the Chinese attacked Tibet, had an enrollment of 10,000 monks. 107 or 8 survived the invasion and reached India, South India, and started to rebuild the monastery there. Pabonka Rinpoche was from that monastery. He was from the best college in that monastery. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you with Tibetan stuff, and I'm not going to do any more, but you should know he's from Gyalrong College. He's now on his third life after that. He passed away once again. He was born again. He was recognized. He finished his studies. He passed away again. And now he's on his third rebirth, and he's in our college. And there are 12 colleges in a monastery, in our monastery, and he's the head of our college. Pabongko Rinpoche is also the teacher of the current Dalai Lama's teacher. Okay, so you have this connection with him. If you've seen the Dalai Lama, he's your lineage Lama, and he's he and he's him. Okay, so I'm just trying to point that out. Okay, if you've taken teachings from the Dalai Lama, your grandfather is Trijang Rinpoche, and your great-grandfather is Pabongko Rinpoche, who used to be Changyur Rinpoche, who used to be that favorite student of Tsongkhapa that used to get letters from Tsongkhapa. Okay, so really you're studying a book that was written by your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, something like that, spiritual grandfather. Okay, and that's the point, is to understand that. He had another very famous student. I'm just going to give you his short name. Say Ken Rinpoche. Okay, he's my root Lama. Stayed with him for 23 years now. He's the former abbot of Serme and the former head of Gyalong College. And that's your lineage, okay? So you're getting it from, if I teach you, then you're getting, I learned from him, he learned from him, and he was him, and he was him, and he wrote the book, okay? So that's the connection, that you have to think like that, okay? You are in that lineage now. If you listen to it this evening, and even if you never listen to anything more, you are the next link in that lineage, okay? And that gives you some kind of responsibilities also. You can't break this is a, what do they call it, a chain, what do they call those scams? Chain letters. Yeah, it's a pyramid scheme, okay? And you can't break it now, okay? You have to teach it to somebody else, all right? And you really are now in that lineage, okay? And it goes all the way back to the beginning of this book. It's a lineage that has gone on like that. And then ultimately traces to an enlightened being, Maitreya. And this person is taking dictation from Maitreya. So it's a very holy book. I'm just trying, it looks like a little $4 book, you know? It represents the essence of hundreds of thousands of Buddhist scriptures. It is the essence of all the scriptures of Buddhism. And it's a very profound, extremely profound work. You know, those 14 verses summarize all of Buddhism. If you could learn them, and if you could develop those 3 attitudes, you would become enlightened. You know, you would become an enlightened being just by studying this. So that's why we're going to concentrate on it. I'm going to talk about the way you should study it a little bit, and then I think it's the next class where we talk about the responsibilities of the teacher. Okay, so first I'll go over your responsibilities as a student. Proper way to listen to Dharma. And then I think it's important in the West that you get, there is a very beautiful teaching in both the open teachings and the secret teachings of Buddhism about who is a good teacher. You know, when you want to go out and look for a Lama, what should you look for? And we're going to go through that tomorrow. I think it's important because not so much as in the past, but there are lots of people coming from India and they have red robes on, and you have no idea who they were, what they were in India. Sometimes they were like, you know, corn farmers or something, and they shave their head and they get a robe and they come to America and they start teaching. Or, you know, it's possible. So it's very important to know the qualities of a good teacher, and to know that in Buddhism there are certain qualifications that you should check for, and you shouldn't easily take a teacher or easily commit yourself to that. So we're going to go over that tomorrow, and that's part of the book. Then we're going to go through slowly each one of the 3 attitudes, okay, and how can you get them through meditation and like that. So we're going to talk about the qualities of a student first, okay. These are called the 3 what do you call it? The 3 qualities of the pot. first one is shut. I mean, think of yourself as a big vessel or a pot, and think of the Lama as wanting to pour something into the pot. You know, you want to learn those three attitudes. You came here to try to learn more about Buddhist practice and Buddhism, and you have to, your goal is that by Sunday afternoon you understand those three attitudes. And if you can meditate on them and develop them, then you could actually reach enlightenment in this life. What's enlightenment? We'll talk about it, okay? But you could reach a place that's beyond dying, that's beyond getting old, and in which it's like a paradise, like a heaven or something like that. If you study these three things well and properly, in this lifetime, your whole reality can change. Your whole world can change if you study those three. And you wouldn't be subject to what you are now, which is just steadily getting older and dying. Okay? You would actually move beyond that if you study those three attitudes nicely. What's nicely mean, okay? First thing is not shut. Shut means if the pot has got the lid shut on it, nothing can get in. And that means that you're not really open to it. You know, like you're just not, you're here and you're kind of thinking about, gee, I wonder when this is going to be over, and what do I have in the refrigerator that I could eat when I get home, and is there any good shows on after 10, and you know, I mean, you got all these thoughts in your mind. That's being a shut pot. I mean, that's the first quality that you have to avoid. Okay, I mean, you have to be open-minded. You have to be here. You know, you have to be present mentally. And then secondly, you have to be open to the ideas that you're about to hear. I claim, and the claim of this book is, that if you could learn to meditate well on these three subjects, your whole experience of your world would change. You would enter a different world. Your body would change, and your mind would change. And you would be yourself become an enlightened being in a different realm, in a different place. And you wouldn't have to go through what we're going through here now. What we're going through here now is, we'll talk about it, but basically there's no happy ending in this world. You know, your body will deteriorate. It's not a question of whether it will or not. It's a question of what disease are you going to get. You know, what's going to kill me and what's going to kill you. I think mine is a heart attack. Feels like that. Okay, maybe cancer. My parents both died of cancer. But we're all going to have something. You know, there'll be a day when the last person in this room dies. And there'll be a day when nobody even remembers what we did here. It won't be very long. And we all have that condition. Everybody here has that condition. We also have the condition that no matter what nice thing you get in this life, you lose it. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a family, or your home, or your job, or your own body, or your health, or your intelligence. You'll lose everything. You know, you have to lose everything. So Buddhism says that if during that time before you lose it, you undertake certain actions, you can do certain things, you don't have to go through it. You move to a different place. You will become a different kind of being in a different realm. And it's total bliss. And it's just a question of being able to get the contents of this book down. And you can do it. You know, by the way, so I'm not teaching, I didn't come to Bloomington on that little plane in that rainstorm to talk about being calm, or, you know, life is bad. You know, it's gonna kill you, and me too. You know, I'm not here to, and it's not our lineage to teach, and the Buddha didn't teach how to be nice and calm while you're dying, you know. Like, just smile, and while you lose your job and your children and your house and your life, you know, just be calm about it, you know. Not the goal. The goal is much more serious and much more fantastic. You know, he's saying, if you learn these things properly, these three, you don't have to die like that. You go to a different kind of being. And that's the goal of, I mean, that's why I'm here. You know, the goal is very serious. It's not an interesting class or a challenging class or got to do these homeworks, maybe I can get a certificate, you know. the stakes are much higher. You know, the stakes are your life. And I claim, and this book claims, and the Buddha claimed, that you don't have to go like this. You know, you can change it. You can actually change your reality. You know, you can actually move to a paradise. And your body will change to a different kind of body. Your mind would become totally pure and loving. And you wouldn't be in this place. And you wouldn't, you know, it looks like not so bad. You know, we all have enough to eat. We all have a car, or sort of have a car. And we all have a place to stay. And it seems like things are not so bad. But they will deteriorate. They have to. Whatever you have now, you will lose. You know, if you finally got yourself up to a certain comfort level, you know, I have a place to stay. I know how to feed myself. I have an income. It's not much, but okay, it's okay. That'll all change. Okay, you'll lose everything. It's just a matter of when. It's not a question of whether. And Buddhism says you can do something about it. Okay, you can actually change that reality. So I'm not teaching how to get calm about it, or you will get calm, but because you fixed it. Okay, and it's not just an interesting class about what guy was in East Tibet or what like that. It's not the point. The point is very serious. The point is it possible to change the human reality to something higher? And can you do it? And can you do it because of this book? And that's the point, okay? So first thing you have to be, why I got off on that was you have to be open to that possibility, to be in this class. You know, you have to recognize the problem, which is death and old age, and losing everything nice that you can ever get. And you have to be open to the possibility. I claim that if you do this practice as well, you will see things happening. You know, things will start to happen. And you will get closer to the other reality. That's the claim. Okay, that's the stakes. So be open to the possibility. Okay, don't be shut. That's the first one. Second one is don't be dirty. Okay, what it means is, okay, you open the pot, but inside it's all dirty. What does that mean? I mean, it's a metaphor for having all these preconceptions about Buddhism in general and about your life. And it's also having the wrong motivations for being here. So I'll go through them one by one. Preconceptions about Buddhism, I mean, you may have read a Buddhist book. It was like called How to Be Calm, or it was maybe called Why Everything is Empty and like an illusion. So just do what you like, you know, or something like that. There's all these books around like that, strange books that don't really get to the main point of Buddhism. And if you get hung up on those ideas, you know, like some kind of strange idea. Let's say the idea, oh, everything's empty, everything's an illusion, so I can do whatever I want. You know, something like that. That would be a dirty idea in your. I mean, your mind would be affected by those wrong. That's a wrong idea. There's this joke that there was a Buddhist conference. I forget, it was in the West Coast, and they were talking about emptiness. And after they finished, everybody was checking out, and this one lady dropped her suitcase, and it opened up, and all the hotel's towels came out. And you know, Buddhists are supposed to be purely ethical, right? And the friends are all saying, well, you were stealing towels from the hotel at a Buddhist conference? And she says, oh, it's okay, everything's empty anyway. Like, this is a classic mistake, totally wrong. And that's what we mean when we say dirty. It also means dirty like you come to a class for the wrong motivations. I don't think anyone here is like that, but sometimes I get in New York, I get people come who, they just want to cause a scene, you know. They want to, hey, I don't think that's that, you know, and then if you don't pay attention to them, they start making more noise. And I mean, the motivation to come to the class is to disrupt it, or to just challenge the guy and see if you can embarrass somebody or something, you know, some kind of, or you come to class because this girl came to class and you kind of like her, and you know, these are wrong motivations. It means the pot is not clean. The pot is not ready for the precious nectar that you're going to get, and you have to avoid that kind of wrong motivations. Okay, I'm saying put your sights very high. I mean, think that possibly open yourself to the possibility that something in this book would take you to a Buddha paradise in your lifetime, before you get to the nursing home and the morgue, okay? Okay. Third quality is leaky. Leaky means you come for today, tomorrow, and Sunday. You really work hard. You pay attention very well. You don't let your past preconceptions run the show. And you really get everything. You know, you understand the three principal paths. And everything is ready. You know, everything is just right. You have a very clear and accurate understanding of these three spiritual levels. And everything is ready for you to actually put it into practice and meditate on it. And you know how to do everything. And everything is set. And then you go home. And there's a good show on Sunday evening. And then Monday you get busy at work. And then you decide to do it on Tuesday. And Tuesday the kids, you're acting up or something. And then you say, okay, Wednesday, but Wednesday you got to start doing your taxes. And that's called leaky pot, okay? Leaky pot means you get everything right, and then you just don't do it. You know, you lose it. Like 2 weeks from now, you got this notebook on your shelf at home, and you're saying, God, well, that was kind of interesting. What was he talking about? You know, and you haven't put it into your life, okay? You let it leak out. So you have to avoid these three. These are the three attitudes that we're trying to stop. We're trying to not be like that. Okay, as you study, you should try to avoid these three attitudes anytime you study Buddhism. Okay. What are the three principal paths? We're going to spend the whole weekend on it, but I'll just introduce you to the names of them. Okay. Okay. Saying Ngenjung? You guys are even worse than New Yorkers. So they're kind of noisy though. Ngenjung? Ngenjung? Okay. Ngenjung is a very interesting word. And we'll talk about it when we get to the more detailed tomorrow. But Ngenjung means, it's very hard to translate. It means to come out, definitely. And what it means is to recognize the suffering of this life and be tired of it, or be disgusted of it. It's like being tired about this life. Okay, Ngenjung means it's the first of the three attitudes. And it's like, okay, I tried everything. You know, I want to get out of it now. You know, it's like it's starting to turn bad now. It's 40 years old. It's not so fun to have these problems anymore. You know, and that's Ngenjung. Ngenjung is when you start getting tired of the way things are going in this life. I think everybody has it to some extent. You know, supposedly it's quite difficult to get pure Ngenjung. You can call it renunciation, okay? But renunciation means you recognize this life for what it is. And at a certain age, it forces itself upon you, you know? You know, I mean, when you're 20, there's no, I mean, people 20 years old don't tend to come to these classes much. There's no reason, because they don't have Ngenjung yet. Ngenjung means you're tired of the way things are going. You kind of got to a point where you realize or you recognize there's no happy ending. You know, when you're 20, you're still looking forward to 30 and the things you can accomplish, you know, the things you can buy, the family you can have, the degree you could finish, the career you could have, the languages you could learn. And you're still looking ahead to those things, and you're thinking, well, you know, that's the goal. And it doesn't occur to you that there's this peak, you know, you're getting healthier, smarter, stronger, and then at a certain age, it starts to go down, and you can't change it. I mean, well, you can change it, but that's the point of the class. But generally, Generally, that's the way it's going to go. I mean, everybody goes that way. And you don't, at 20, you notice, but you don't care. At 30, you notice, and you're starting to care. And then, I don't know, when you're my age, I guess, 40, 45, it's starting to become obvious. Your eyes are starting to go. You're starting to get your third root canal. You don't feel very well sometimes. You don't feel the energy you used to have. And you're not interested in learning a language that takes 10 years anymore. Because you see that it's pointless. You'd be 50 or 60 by the time you know it, and by then you're so forgetful you wouldn't remember it anyway. And you know it. It starts to become evident. And if you're not there yet, then you're just here or something. But you get there, and then you have like a little space here. This is a window of opportunity. And I don't know what it is. It depends on how fast you can get Ngenjung. They say in the scriptures, if you're lucky, someone close to you dies. If you're lucky, like your mother dies in your arms, or your brother, or your child, or something, and you get Ngenjung down here, then you have more years to do something about it. When you get to here, it's kind of difficult to pull off the escape from this life. Your body is not too strong anymore. Your mind is not as strong anymore. You can't meditate. You can't sit and meditate 2-3 hours. You can't concentrate deeply in the way that it might take to perceive some of these things. So there's this window of opportunity. The sooner you can get into that, the better. The sooner you can get renunciation, the sooner you can say, oh, I see, now I get it. The only place I'm going to go is the morgue. The only thing that can happen now is for me to lose all the things I worked so hard to get. I spent my whole life building up a house and a family and a job. And now it's obvious to me, 3 of my friends have retired. 4 of them have had heart attacks. I've seen their children waste all the money they collected for their children. And it's now I believe it. I really believe it. And the question is, how soon can you get there? If you're younger, then if you think carefully, you can get there quicker. Or if some disaster happens to you, 2 people in your family die, something like that, it can push you into the first path. But you have to get to the first path. And the window here is very small. The window here is like 5 years, 10 years, or what, I don't know. Depends on how young you can really start. But you have to get to this first path. First path says, oh, now I get it. No future here. I must die. I must lose my energy. I must lose my teeth, my hair, my eyes, my ears, my family, my house. It's going to happen. Then every year that goes by, you believe it more and more because your hair's falling out and your teeth are falling out and your friends are dying. And Buddhism says you can do something about it. You can change it. You can move to a different realm, a good realm, a holy realm. And you'll be like an angel. Your body would be like that. And it's in this book, if you do it. And the question is, how soon do you want to start? Sooner or later you have to start. There's no choice. The other choice is death. The other choice is just getting old and dying. What's that one poet? He said, don't go quietly or something. What's it? Don't go quietly into that dark night or something, The point is to get to that first path and then do something. And you can. You can do it. If you got to this class, it means you have some kind of connection with this path. You have karma to be here. You have the karma to hear these things. So there's a chance. There's some hope, and we have to try to get there. But first you have to admit the problem. If you wait another few years and try to collect more money or try to see if those vitamins or that workout thing is going to change anything, there's an irony about workout things. As you're doing them, you're getting older. Like in the 2 months that it takes you to do a new workout technique, you're 2 months closer to your death, I mean, while you were working out, you were dying. And it's an irony, The time it takes to go to the health food store and pick out all the food, you're 2 hours closer to dying. It doesn't matter that you're eating healthy. You just lost 2 hours of precious life. You're 2 hours along that curve, It doesn't mean, by the way, that you shouldn't be healthy. You should be healthy. a Buddhist is under obligation to take good care of their body, but not to obsess about it. But it should be eat healthy, take good care of your car, because you need it. You know, when it starts to go down, then you're going to go down too. Your opportunities start to shut. So yeah, definitely take good care of it, but realize that there's no cosmetic yet that's going to really work. And there's, you know, and there's, by the time you need it, it's probably too late, right? There's no vitamin that can really make much difference. I mean, maybe a little bit of energy more, or maybe a little more, a year or two more or something, but there's no kind of physical activity that, you know, makes you live really 10 years longer. There's no such thing. Because you can't, that doesn't work. That's not what changes it. What changes it is these three. What's number 2? Okay. In case we die tonight, at least you got all of them, okay? The book says there will be a night that you die tonight. Second path, okay, say semke. Semke. Sem means mind, ke means to get it, to develop it. And it's the Sanskrit word is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta means ultimate love, ultimate compassion. Okay, the highest kind of love. That love has 2 parts. Maitreya says in the Abhisamankara, semke pani shenenchir yanda zobe chanjadu, which means it loves other people and it wants to reach that kind of realm that I talked about. It wants to reach that paradise in order to help other people. See, if you could get there yourself, by the way, you would still have contact with other people. You could still come and talk to other people. And then you would say, hey, remember that guy who came to that class? I did it. I reached there, you know. You want to know how to get there? You know, I can show you. You know, you're my good friend. I'm going to show you how. You can do it. Semke means some kind of compassion that wants to get there so that it can come back and explain it to other people and help other people. It's some kind of special kind of, it's a kind of love, but the point of the love is that the love wants to get to that realm so that it can come back and help other people and say, okay, this is not theory now. I actually went there. You know, I'm not going to die like you're going to die. My body has changed. Okay. And I think there's an important thing to say here. Did the Dalai Lama reach this realm or not? You know, question. Did he reach this realm or not? You know, is he like us or is he some kind of angel? You know. Yeah, but he looks like he's getting bald. I mean, balder. You know, he's always had a shaved head. It looks like that, okay? So that seems like a contradiction. If he reached this realm, and he's like some kind of angel in a deathless body who's experiencing the world in a totally different way that we are, that he shouldn't be getting bald and wrinkles, you know, that he should just be glowing with light. And then, by the way, it'd be a lot easier to practice because there'd be guys walking around that obviously made it, you know, and then you would listen to them. The point is this: there's a certain, a lot of our reality is determined by the state of our own minds. And it's quite possible, it's even probable, that the Dalai Lama is some kind of a angel who's deathless and reached some kind of realm. But because of our own perceptions, you can't see it. And we'll talk about that. That's emptiness. Okay, the emptiness of the Dalai Lama is that to the Dalai Lama, when he looks down, he could be seeing like some holy body of light or something. But if you don't have that goodness in your spirit, in your heart, and you look at him, he might look like a regular Joe to you. You know, and that's, by the way, his emptiness. And we'll have to talk about that more. Which is he? Is he the angel or the regular Joe? If that's true, you know, if what I said is true. Which one is he?
So,
It can't be both. You can't be deathless and deathful at the same time.
well, there's still karma remaining, because if there's born from blood and sperm, then he also has that kind of karma, but then he's also has the enlightened side of it. So until you're actually do it, could that possibly be both?
Oh, I want to say, is he going to die or not?
Yes.
So he's not a deathless angel. I'm talking about deathless angel. They're contradictory. To be deathless and to be mortal are contradictory. Can't be both. Is he getting bald or not? This is a big question. You know, did he reach that place or not?
Depends on the quality of his mind.
No, I'm not. No. By the way, Buddha has two bodies.
Right. But
He's not just a mental body. He has a rupakaya.
but the Rupakaya
He has a
is
totally
the Dharmakaya is
perfect body. Perfect deathless angel's body. If he's a Buddha, he has one. So is he or isn't he?
That's not the gross form body that most people
Right.
see at Buddha delusion.
Well, what I'm saying is that, which one is he? By the way, this is Madhyamika. You just got to Madhyamika, okay? This is Nagarjuna. He can't be both. He's either deathless or he's mortal. He's either an angel or he's this guy. You know, he can't be both. He can't be neither one, really. I mean, let's agree he has to be one or the other, right?
Well, okay, so in order to be an angel, you have to take your body with you when you die.
No, that body goes away. He doesn't have it anymore. When you become the first moment, the first millisecond of enlightenment, this body changes into a deathless angel's body, period.
But it continues.
And in the next millisecond, by the way, you gain the power to send endless bodies anywhere you want. And they can look like anybody. Everybody in this room except you and me could be Buddhas. We don't know, okay? They can look like anything. They can look like anybody.
Deathless angel is sort of a synonym for Buddha.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah.
an enlightened being. But why is he getting bald? I mean, Madhyamika, he can't be both. He doesn't appear to be the deathless angel because he's getting bald. But then on the other hand, he does appear to be a deathless angel or an enlightened being because he's so smart and he's saying such wonderful things. And he's probably not neither, right? Like he's not a chair or something like that. And this is Madhyamika reasoning. This is emptiness reasoning. This is how to establish emptiness. Is he both? Is he one? Is he the other? Or is he neither? There's four choices. By the way, it's not logical to say he's not any of them. That's not logical. I mean, one of them has to be true. By the way, we skipped to the third path already, which is understanding emptiness.
Ultimate and relative reality. Right.
That's totally different. That's a different thing. You have ultimate reality now. Your mind, the emptiness of your mind is ultimate reality. And your body is relative reality. So that's no big shakes. Now, answer my question. Is he this enlightened being who can't get old? Or is he a regular Joe? Because he cannot be both at the same time. Is he one or the other, or is he neither? Is he like a chair or the sky or, you know?
He's neither inherently both, but he's dependently arising from Buddha. Yes, no.
Well, but he looks like he's getting bald. That's what I'm trying to say. So are you saying which one is he?
I'm trying to think the way my teachers have explained it. They say the only difference between you and me is that I have great success in meditation. I voluntarily am here. You are here by illusion.
But even if he volunteered to come here, shouldn't he look like an angel? I mean, shouldn't he be shining and, you know?
No, because we wouldn't be able to relate to him on that. It would scare the shit out of us.
So he's faking it.
He's doing it out of compassion. He's taking into our account our abilities, where we're at the moment, what we're actually able to handle and use in a productive way instead of a counterproductive way, and manifesting in such a way that he's teaching us to our own level, not to where he's at.
So the point is that it's never useful for an enlightened being to reveal themselves on this planet, because none of us, at least, you know, let's say you haven't seen one. So is it that it's never useful for him either just to let his hand shine a little bit once in a while or something like that? You know what I mean?
It might show you at a certain point. Well, wait a minute, Bruce. At a certain point, they will do things.
Yeah.
I have a lama who came to my house and he sat down on my couch. And the weekend he was there, he was teaching, and everybody got backaches. Remember that? So when Rinpoche left, I went and laid down on the couch, and I was sort of passing out. But there was a disc with a symbol, very bright yellow. And I asked my Lama, I said, "What's that all about?" You know, a year ago, and he said, "That means the Lama will come back." Now, but it wasn't something he said, "Oh, that's nothing." He says, you know, okay, so maybe you were smart enough to listen to what I said, and so at least this time there's something to me, isn't there?
So
Now I got here, you can get
okay.
there too.
So which is he?
Well, my question is though, if you're talking about Buddha,
Yeah.
but there's also 10 stages of Bodhisattva, and each one of those exponentially goes up in the ability to manifest and do more miraculous works.
Yeah.
But they're still not Buddha yet because
Right.
they still have remaining karma.
Yeah.
And that's what we as ordinary beings, we can't see the differentiation between what's a Buddha and what's a Bodhisattva, because to us they seem to be both the same, but there is some differentiation.
No, I'm just saying, suppose he's a totally enlightened being, past Bodhisattva level number 10. He's a totally enlightened being. Why is he getting bald?
Because they will manifest for what the disciple needs. If he's an enlightened being, he has the possibility of infinite manifestation, then he can manifest as a chair, he can manifest as a snake, he can manifest as a balding old man, as a young boy. It just depends on what's needed for the disciples to see or the people they come into contact.
So which one is he really?
That, unless you have clear seeing, you can't see.
So you say he's mortal and immortal at the
Well,
same
if
time.
he's a bodhisattva, he has...
No, I'm saying he's either.
No, well, if
Well, he's supposed to be Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara is immortal. And now, is he immortal or is he mortal? That's just a simple question.
Well, for some
In the
people,
debate ground, they say, "Come on, man, yes or no? Yes or no?"
That's why is it important to know that?
Oh, it's definitely important. I don't want to die like that. I don't want to get old and die like that. I don't want to. I really don't want to. I want to become an enlightened being.
But why is it important to debate whether the Dalai Lama?
Well, we're just trying to find out if anyone ever did it, because I was expecting someone to say, "Okay, sounds great. You know, I don't want to die. I don't want to get old. I don't want to lose everything. I would like to go to that realm. I'd like to change my body." But frankly, all those guys, you Buddhist guys, been around thousands of years. There's no picture even of somebody who did it. So, either it's like incredibly difficult and nobody in this room has any chance of doing it, or nobody really did it and this whole thing is silly. What are you talking about? Let's go back to meditation,
Obviously, since you're not here to make money, so you must be appointed.
I'm going for the big time. I want millions, Those $5 donations. Anyway, just briefly, the emptiness of Dalai Lama means this. To himself, when he looks down, he could be seeing a totally, purely enlightened being who could never get old and knows all things in the universe at one time and can be on every planet in the universe helping countless beings at the same time. And it's no contradiction to say that one of us could look at him and see a balding older man. There's no contradiction at all in Buddhism. That's the point I'm trying to get to. And that's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama. Okay, that's his emptiness. It means, and if I ask you which one he is, the good answer is to say, to whom? Okay, because really, objectively, you can't answer that question. You always have to say, to whom? If I say, is the Dalai Lama mortal or immortal? You have to say, you can't say both because they're contradictory. You can't say neither because he has to be one or the other. Okay? But the good answer is, excuse me, to whom? Okay, and that's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama. It depends on who's looking. There is no reality beyond that. It's very interesting. He's neither. It depends on who's looking. If he's looking, and if he is a Buddha, he's probably goes through, when he goes on a trip around the United States, he probably bumps into 3 or 4 other enlightened beings. Say, hey, hi, and you got that shiny light too. And then when we look at all those guys standing together, it looks like a bunch of older monks, And to us, it's like, So what's the point of Buddhism? If the Dalai Lama himself is getting old and dying, if he couldn't do it, what chance do I have of doing it? But what I'm trying to say is that it's totally consistent with the teachings of Buddhism, and especially emptiness. The emptiness means that to the Dalai Lama could be something totally different than what he is to you. And that's his emptiness. He does not have any nature of his own, independent of your perceptions, and independent of his perceptions. And that's the third path. You're going to get home early. So on the example of the Lama on the couch, was he doing some kind of miracle on the couch? Now you guys know the Madhyamika and the Garjunian answer. Was he doing a miracle on the couch?
It's dependent upon who is observing.
No, you don't have to say no. You can say, excuse me, to whom? Do you have to ask? You have to say to whom? If you had the sweet karma, the good karma, to recognize what he was doing on the couch, you'd say, yeah, he was doing some miracle on the couch. And then somebody else come in, and say, you're nuts. He's just this old guy. He lay down on the couch, you lay down on the couch. Show me this disc thing, And they won't see it. No contradiction. That's the emptiness of the disc on the couch. No contradiction at all. Say yang, dakpe, tawa. Yang dakpe, tawa. Yang dapa means pure, totally pure. Or you can say here correct. And tawa means view. And that's the understanding of emptiness, mainly. Okay, understanding emptiness. Also karma is important. So you can say understanding emptiness and karma. Correct view about emptiness and karma. That's the third point you have to get. And the clue is what we just did. You just did Yandape Tawa. You just got a taste of Yandape Tawa. Okay, and that, by the way, if that viewpoint, it's a world view. It's a way of looking at the world. If it's correct, all things are possible. If it's correct, then people in this room can become angels or something. Your body can change, and you can move out before it's too late into that other realm. Okay, then it's possible. If we are not like that, then it's impossible. If things are self-existent, if they have some external way of being that doesn't depend on who's looking, then it's impossible. Then we might as well go home. Then you might as well go catch some show before 9 o'clock. But if things are very largely dependent upon your own perceptions, then great things are possible. Then you don't have to become an angel. You just have to see yourself as an angel. Same thing. We'll talk about it more. Okay. But that's the third: understanding karma, understanding emptiness. These three are the keys. First of all, you have to be fed up with this kind of life. You have to want to get out. And that doesn't happen until you get sick or something, or you get old, or if you're lucky, someone in your family dies or something like that. You don't really wake up until something serious happens. Second one is compassion, that you would like to reach that state for other beings. By the way, without that, you can't pull this off. Okay? You don't get to change bodies if you're just doing it for yourself. You can reach nirvana, and we'll talk about it. But you will not reach this kind of a other realm, this kind of paradise realm, where the Dalai Lama, possibly to his own self, is already there. Okay? And then the third thing is to really understand karma and to understand emptiness. By the way, we have like 5 minutes, so where does karma come in here? Karma meaning like good deeds and bad deeds. The Buddha spent, the canon is 100 volumes. It's 1,500 separate lectures by the Buddha. He spent about half of them explaining ethical living. And then he spent like half of them explaining emptiness. So what's ethical living, or what's karma got to do with what we said? Let's go back to the Dalai Lama, okay? Where does karma play there? What's karma got to do with that example? To us, he might seem like an aging man, an aging old man. To himself, he might seem to be something radically different, and actually be something radically different. Where does karma play a part?
Our common perceptions have a part of what we see. They have to do with what we see, where the imprints on our mind.
Yeah, she said imprints, and that's a sweet word, okay? Perfect word. Very interesting. You have to understand how karma's collected. And we'll get into it. But the rawest form of karma, 4th chapter, Abhidharma Kosha, Lele Jikten Natsoke, Deni Semba Dandeche. It was 16 centuries ago, okay? The world is created by karma. And karma, the rawest form of karma, is thinking. Raw karma is thinking. How many karmic imprints, how many thoughts does it take to make one imprint on your mind? That's the rawest form of karma. By the way, what are the other two forms of karma? Once thinking is done its job, what happens then? You say something or you do something, okay? So raw karma has to come first. Leni semba dande che. Semba means thinking. First you have the rawest form of karma is thinking. And thinking itself leaves imprints on your mind. Thinking sweet thoughts leaves certain imprints on your mind. Thinking nasty thoughts leaves certain imprints on your mind. And then if you say something or do something, they leave their own imprints on your mind. Okay? We'll talk about how they leave imprints on your mind. How many imprints, how many minutes of karma does it take to leave one imprint? What's its jadzoki kechikma? 64 in that amount of time. 64 separate imprints have been placed in your mind stream in the time it takes me to snap my fingers. You're collecting karmic imprints at the rate of 64 per finger snap. Okay? Your thoughts are that fast. Your mind is rushing that fast. You cannot always follow it. You weren't aware of 64 separate mental events in that amount of time. But there were 64 imprints made on your mind during that time. In the course of this class, in the moments of irritation at the humidity or the sound outside, were all negative karmas. And they were imprinted on your mind as like a perfect tape recorder. Every moment of irritation was recorded. And it's a bad karma. And it will have its own effects. And every moment of like, wow, that's nice, or yeah, maybe I could do that, or maybe that is possible. Those are all incredibly virtuous karmas. And then 64 per finger snap while you were having that thought, yeah, maybe that could be done. And then you put that many virtuous karmas in your mind. The world, Madhyamika says the world is like a movie. And it's really separate karmic imprints flashing up in front of your mind. And it's moving so fast it looks like what we call time. It looks like the movement of time. Time appears to happen because of these imprints ripening in your mind at the rate of like 64 a finger snap. In Madhyamika they say, take rose petals. This was before they had what they call it, motion photography. What do they call it? Stop action. Before they could see a water drop, drop and, like that. And the Buddha could perceive it because he's omniscient. So he said, look, I'm trying to explain it to you because you guys are, medieval Indian guys. And you take a rose and you pull off the petals and you flatten them out and then you put them on the bullseye of a archery target and you glue them up like this. Glue them one on top of the other. And then you get the strongest guy in the village, and you get the biggest bow in the village, and let him stand right in front of that, and pull it back as far as he can, and then let go. And the arrow goes into the bullseye like thwack. It looks like thwack, So he says, did you see the arrow go through the petals that were glued on the black spot, You know, it went through 64 petals in that time. But did you see it go through 64 petals? You can say, no, it looked like one continuous thing. And they say, but think about it. Close your eyes and visualize the petals. You know, did the arrow touch the first petal first, and then break through the first petal, and then touch the second petal, and then break through the second petal? And then the guy says, yeah, I mean, I can't see it with my eye, but I understand that that must be the way it happened. So he says, life is the same way. The motion, the progress of your life, the whole movie going on, is karmic seeds ripening at such a speed that you don't notice it. And it looks like it's so, the flow is so good, the frames are moving so fast, that it looks like life. It looks like that thing called life. But it's really just karma's ripening in your mind at a certain fantastic rate of speed. What's it got to do with anything? So who cares? I mean, if I go out there and stand in front of a car and it hits me, is it going to be any comfort that it was 64 frames per fingers now, you know? I mean, you know, what's the point? I mean, you always have to say, what's the point to my life? What's it got to do with my life? What's the point? What's the point? What's the karma got to do with the Dalai Lama getting old? Okay, say it's a whole series of perceptual events, you know, like I have karma. If I like the Dalai Lama, then I have a bad karma because it seems like he's getting old. If I don't like the Dalai Lama, I'm having a result of a good karma, which is what? You know, maybe some people in China would like to see him go away. So if he's getting old, they're like happy. If something makes you happy, it's the result of a good karma. It's very interesting. Even if it's creating a new bad karma. It's very interesting. Like if suppose there is some Chinese official who's happy that the Dalai Lama is getting old, if it makes him happy, it's a result of his own good karma. And being happy that someone is getting old and about to die is a very, very nasty karma. So at the same moment, he's experiencing the result of a good karma, and he's creating a very, very bad karma. So to that person, the Dalai Lama getting old is a result of a good karma. To someone who loves the Dalai Lama getting old is a result of a very, very, very bad karma. And it's coming up in my mind. You know, it's coming up in my perceptions. And that's what's making me, that's the connection between the Dalai Lama getting old and my karma. It's individual, just like the emptiness thing. You know, it's all individual. What's his own karma? What's coming up on the frame of his movie? You know? No. Well, that too, in that state. But he's seeing some kind of immortal, totally blissed out being moving through a paradise. You know, and if it could slow it down, it would be, you know, and no, really, there's karmas going off in his mind. We don't call them karmas at that point. We call them the two collections of merit and wisdom going off in his mind. We don't call them karma at that point. But those are going off in his mind. He's being forced to see this holy being move through paradise. At the same time that we see him moving down a dirty road in India. And there's no contradiction there. That's Yangdapetao. You have to start to get into that mood. What's the distinction? What's the difference between him and us? He did good deeds in the past, and we didn't do enough. We did enough to see him. We did enough to have him in the world teaching these sweet things. But we didn't do enough to see him the way he sees himself, which is as some kind of immortal, holy, sacred, light-covered being walking through paradise, you know. And if you could change your karma, if you could improve your karma, you would start to see him the way he sees himself. I mean, you could hang out in his paradise with him, although I'm sorry, you always have to have your own also. Anyway, I just want you to get a feeling of the possibilities. You know, if the Dalai Lama is empty, if his existence in our world was created by our own karmas, then everything's possible. Then big stuff is possible. Then you don't have to get old and lose your house and your kids and everything else. You know, then there's big possibilities. If he has some external, concrete, cemented reality of being an old man who's getting bald, we're in big trouble. You know, then nothing's possible. You know, if everything is the way that we're seeing it right now, then you might as well just not come to this class. There's no point. You know, go to some meditation thing and try to be calm while you get old. You know, and there will come a day in that class that you cannot sit there anymore. You know, because your bones won't do it anymore. And you'll go home and you'll say, I used to be calmer because I used to be able to sit, and now I can't. And that's not the goal. The goal is to meditate for a purpose. You have to meditate, but it has to be to collect these special karmas that he's collecting, that he collected already, supposed to be. Okay, that's all I have. We can do like 5 minutes of questions if you.
We can go longer because he
Yeah.
told everybody it was till 10.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Personally, I like to take a break in the middle, and I like to bring some refreshments and stuff. Do you have anything like that, or?
We brought some beer and some.
Okay.
Yeah, we have tea and cookies.
Okay, good. So let's take a break, and then let's start in about 10. How about like 10 after 9? Like 15 minutes? Okay. See yourself going to the bathroom. See yourself eating tea. Okay.
The rest of the handouts to go with the package. And then also too that Lisa, this person I talked to yesterday said that there's homework assignments in the back of all these, each section, and that if some of them need to be turned in the morning, but there's some that needs to be mailed. If you want it, like all your questions graded, mail it to the addresses in the back of the book here, and they'll grade it to you. But they'd like to have it sent to them by April 11th. Put in the mail by that day, so they're not straggling in over the year.
Years.
But you know, it's not a grade where you have to pass a class in school, but it's more just to kind of check on what you picked up or not picked up. So feel free to, you know, and nobody's going to come over with a big stick and, you know, rub in the knuckles or anything for getting a wrong answer. So please do this because it'll really, you know, it'll help assimilate all this.
It cements it. It really does work. I mean, maybe you don't believe me, it really does work. Okay, anyway, there's one more thing on the homework that I forgot to cover, okay?
Oh, one more thing. Sorry about that.
No,
There was
fine.
a question about why was there just a Tibetan text in this? Because you have the book, which is the actual, the bold print is what is in these verses in Tibetan. So in the book, the bold print is the verse, and then the rest of it is a commentary on it, so there was no need to stick an actual commentary in here because you have the book. Somebody had asked that question, so
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
explanation.
And by the way, every other course, we have like 10 other courses, and 9. And in every other one, it's interspersed. But we were just in a rush when we did this. So, and this was already printed as a book, so the English, we didn't have to retype the English. But if you do like, there's courses on karma. There's a course on how karma works, which is very important to know. There's a course on bodhisattva vows, which is important if you've ever taken them. And it's very, very clear. In fact, we took that course, Pabonko Rinpoche twice in his collected works says, I don't have to explain the bodhisattva vows because this geshe from Dibung did it so well that I don't need to do it. And go get that book. And we looked all over the place for this book, and we finally found pieces of it in different countries, you know, and put it back together. And so that course is complete, that whole book, and it's an explanation of each vow. Sewa Samdru. Geshe Sewa. He was a tutor of the 10th Dalai Lama. And so that's a good one. There's the Diamond Cutter Sutra, which is the ultimate explanation of emptiness. there's a proof from Dharmakirti of future lives and past lives, which is very cool, because most of Buddhist literature doesn't have a formal argument for past and future lives because everyone believes it already. But there was this one great debate that happened like 1,200 years ago between a Buddhist philosopher and a Hindu sect that said there is no future life. When you die, it's done. Everything stops. But nobody else in Asia believed that except this one little group. But he went to this long debate with them, and it's very beautiful and it's very convincing. So that's a separate course. It's called The Proof of Future Lives. And there's a course about death and what happens to you, where you go. There's a course about Buddhist ethics, which is based on the monastic code. And a course based on Kamalashila, who was about 1,200 years ago, who was the ultimate person who taught meditation to the Tibetans. I mean, it was all the Tibetan systems of meditation was based on that. So those are all the different courses and like that. Again, they're like, you know, you just get them free. If you can pay, you pay. If you can't pay, you don't pay, and we cover it. And there's tapes. There's tapes of the original talks and stuff. Okay, so say Kebu, Chung, Kebu, Chung. Kebu means person. Chung means little. It does not mean about dwarfs. Okay. These are 3 levels of motivation for doing what we're about to do. Okay, and this comes from the Lamrim teachings, and it's on your homework. The lowest motivation for a Buddhist, lousiest motivation possible for studying this stuff, is to not want to go to a lower realm after you die. So the reason you're in this class, if you're the minimum, lousiest, lowest level of motivation of a Buddhist, is not even connected to this current life. It's after I die, I do not want to go to a lower realm. What's a lower realm? Buddhism has a teaching on hell realms, which is extremely similar to Dante's description. It's kind of scary, actually, that they're so similar. And then that there's another kind of realm that you cannot see now, that you could be born as some kind of a spirit or a ghost. And we believe there are ghosts, and there are spirits walking around, and they do have some kind of tortured life. And we believe that it's possible to be born into that. And then there's the animal realm, which you can see. That's the only one of the 3 that you can see. Now, if I was teaching the Heart Sutra or the Diamond Cutter Sutra, I would get up here and say something profound like, do those realms exist? Or, no, sorry. Do you go to those realms? I mean, this would be a very typical question in a sutra. If Subhuti and the Buddha were having a discussion, the Buddha would say, when somebody goes to hell, does anybody go to hell? This is very typical. Read the Diamond Cutter, read the Heart Sutra. When somebody goes to hell, does anybody go to hell?
Relatively, but not absolutely.
Yeah, he says relatively, but not absolutely. What does that mean? Okay.
They just visit there.
Yeah. It means this. By the way, well, anyway, when you go, you really do go in the sense that it hurts. It hurts like hell, right? And you really do. I mean, you can stand in front of a car and get hit by a car, and you can say relative, ultimate, all you want, but it's still going to break your bones. And you know, there's something very real about it. You know, you have to pay the bills, and that's very real, and stuff like that. You know, all those things are very real. When somebody goes to hell, does anybody go to hell? You know, does the person go to hell? Just answer from the top of your head. Don't think too much.
No.
Come on. I mean, what? Nobody goes to hell?
Well, because there is no real person.
Go stand out there in the street and let me borrow that old van of yours, and you know, and we're gonna test and see if any person. You're gonna be the guinea pig, okay?
There is no person.
So is this to him, he's in hell? Is this what he
Well, no, it's more interesting. No, you're close. You're close. You're very close. What I'm trying to say is this: there is no externally self-existent objective going to hell. okay, there is a perception on that person's side of going to hell, by the way, which hurts exactly the same as if it did exist externally, okay? You have to say that. You have to say that. It hurts exactly the same, okay, as if it really existed externally and like that. But it happens to be this frames going in the guy's mind, and it feels just like hell, and it is hell. And it is those frames going. But what I'm trying to say is this. There's two things you have to remember about to believe this level of motivation. By the way, if you can't get to this level of motivation, you're not a Buddhist. This is minimum. I mean, Buddhist practice starts here. It's very interesting. Buddhist practice starts with being scared as hell that something might happen after you die. It's like focused on death. And I think it's very simple. You have to. I think it boils down to two things. Going back to Dharmakirti. Does your mind stop when you die? Prove it. I mean, Kedubje says, hey, all you Tibetan Buddhists, you all say you're going to have a future life. Give me one shred of evidence that you're going to have a future life. You just believe it because all those lamas said it. You don't have one single good argument that you're going to have a future life. You just believe it. You're as bad as all those guys in the West who don't believe it. You can't give me one good proof why there's a future life. Kedup is he's Gyatso Kappa's student. He's like, he was very hot about it. He said, you know, you Tibetans, you say you believe in future life, you know. Give me one argument that there's a future life. Give me one good argument. And then he says, you have to, he does, by the way. Very, very beautiful. And then at the end he says, it comes down to the mind. Does the mind stop or not? And that question comes down to, is the mind the same as the body? I mean, the only argument, I always tell, people say, prove to me future lives. I say, no, you prove to me there's no future life. You know, I say, I'm tired of being pushed by Westerners to say, prove there's a future life, you know. I say to you, prove to me there's not. You know, and then they say, the only argument, and the only argument in ancient India, 1,200 years ago, it was the same stupid argument. And it's the only one, is that the body stopped moving. You know, that's the only one. And that's what this Hindu school, that's the only thing they could come up with Dharmakirti was, hey, Dharmakirti, the mind stops because the body stops. So Dharmakirti's like, well, when you park your car, did you die, you know? You know, because the vehicle stopped. It doesn't mean the driver stopped. You know, there's no connection. And then he gets into a very, very convincing presentation of the difference between the body and the mind. You know, the body can be cut, as we saw. The body can be smashed. The body can be burned. The body can be weighed. The body can be measured. The body has limits, the edge of the skin. And the mind ain't like that at all. There's nothing about the mind that's like that. The mind is invisible. The mind is ineffable. The mind cannot be weighed. You cannot physically split the mind with a knife. The mind can go anywhere. You know, my mind can go to Pluto right now. It just did. You know. You know. It also went to my bed back in New Jersey, you know, and no problem. And, you know, you said, no, your mind didn't really go there. I'm not talking about my eyeballs. I'm talking about my mind. My mind did go there. My mind went to my bed and looked at it and said, you know, remembered it. And that's the mind it went to. The mind doesn't stop at the edge of the skin. The mind is not like the body at all. So when the body stops, to say that the mind, which is totally different, and by the way, which Buddhism says does rest on the body. You know, like they're two totally different things, and the mind is resting on the body. Like if you get the body drunk, the mind gets silly. You know, if the table is shaking, the vase will shake. So there is obviously a relationship, but they're not the same thing. They're totally different things. And what I'm saying is that the Western belief that the mind stops at death is a superstition that's been carried on from generation to generation, and it has no factual basis at all. You know, doesn't have. And someday they'll look back and say, God, people in the 1990s, you know, they thought the mind stopped when the body stopped. Why? Gee, I don't know. You know, and I mean, it'll be like saying that black people aren't people, or stuff like that, which our forefathers sincerely believed 200 years ago. They're animals, you know, they're not human beings. And that was a belief, or that women shouldn't own property because they're too dumb to keep accounts. That was 100 years ago. Not allowed to own property, you know, or that they can't vote, you know. I mean, they'll look back on these days and say, man, they thought the mind ended when the body ended. It's so funny. Why did they think that? You know, it'll be one of those ideas like that. It's just a wrong idea. It's just passed on from father to son, from the parents to the children, and the children go, okay, and it's not true, and there's no proof for it. The mind doesn't stop. Now, why get into that? What's the point? Are we having a mind-body conference here? No. The point is this: if the mind goes on, what's the next thing you have to say? It has to go somewhere. You know, I mean, if the mind doesn't stop, then there's a lot to think about. It's what Hamlet said just before he didn't kill himself, which was, it was very interesting. He said, to be or not to be. And then he said, in the end, he decides what? He decides not to kill himself because he says to dream. And then he understands the possibility that his mind could go to other realms. It's very interesting. Read it. He decides not to kill himself because he says, what if some kind of consciousness continues, you know? And that's the point. If the mind doesn't stop, it's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. And then the question is Bloomington, Indiana, you know, such and such a street, the only reality you could have been in? You know, is that the only reality around? Is this the only realm around? You know, do you have to go back to Indiana? You know, does your mind, is that the only option for the human mind? You know, is that the only option for your mind? I mean, is there one realm or two realms? Or yeah. I mean, how many realms are there? You know, no. I mean, how can you count? How do you know? I mean, if this one can exist.
Robert just wants all of them, he said.
If this one can exist, then oh boy, anything's possible. You know, if time is infinite, which it is, and if space is infinite, which it is, and if your mind is infinitely living, which it is, anything's possible. You know, you could win the lottery 2,000 times between now and infinite amount of times because it's infinite, and you will. Anything is possible. What I'm trying to say is that it's foolish, or it's crazy, or it's somehow very parochial to think that this is the only realm could be. You know, I mean, I'm just saying two logical things. Your mind does not stop. It has to go somewhere. And the possibilities are infinite, you know, which means there could be infinitely better ones and infinitely worse ones. You know, a place called hell could exist. So back to my question. This is a Buddhi question, you know. If somebody goes to hell, do they go to hell? How hard is it to get to hell? What has to happen for you to get to hell?
To believe you're there.
A new imprint comes in the mind. How long does it take for a new imprint to come in the mind? 1/64 of that. It takes 1/64 of that for new imprints to come up. You can get to hell 64 times in that amount of time. You know, it does not take, you know, if it was like somebody has to kill you and then you have to stop breathing and then somebody has to take you to the morgue and then Freddy has to come and drag you down, you know, and you know, if it was all that work, then that's externally self-existing going to hell. But that ain't the way it is. Going to hell is a change in your perceptions. It's a shift of your perceptions. The sun coming up in the morning is a shifting of your perceptions. The sun is not coming up. Your perceptions are shifting. The sun is not moving. Your perceptions are shifting. And to go to hell is as easy as new perceptions coming up. So what I'm trying to say is that this is not like some level you can't get to. You just got very close. Just now. It'll wear off by tomorrow, okay? But just now you got very close to this, to minimum Buddhist motivation. You know, oh my God, you know, it's possible. If what he said is true, if it's just a shift of perceptions that that divides me from the hell, or from some terrible, monstrous realm, call it hell, I don't care, call it anything you want. Don't think there's not places like that. What, is this the only reality there is? You know, don't be so, you know, American to think that we are the only country, you know, and our hamburgers are the only kind of hamburgers, and, you know, it's not true. There's infinite possibilities. So this is not, it's not hard to get. This is minimum long rim motivation. And once you understand the thing about projections or imprints, boy, then you got to get serious about this. Your mind will not stop. Your mind has to go somewhere. How do you make sure it goes to the right place? Is it going anywhere? It's not going anywhere. There's a shift. You know, you're seeing yourself go somewhere. It's that easy to go somewhere. It's not like somebody has to drive it there. You know, it just has to change. Your mind has to change. You can get there in 2 minutes. Less. It doesn't take that long. And you really will be there. By the way, when I say imprints or projections or whatever, I don't mean to say unreal, you know. I mean to say totally real. Totally, totally real. Totally horrible, real, going on like that. And that's, minimum motivation is to find out how to avoid that possibility. You know, what kind of imprints to load up in your mind that you can never go there. And there's a system for that in Buddhism. Path number 2, path of preparation. Level number 3, mastery. You can't go there anymore, okay? You have to learn how to get to that state, and you won't go there. You won't see yourself go there anymore, okay? And it's very serious. Okay, number 2. Say kebu? Ding. Kebu? Ding. Okay. Kebu means person, ding means medium level. Medium level motivation. Okay. This is a little different, okay? Medium level motivation, that person understands the possibility of some kind of monstrous realms. Like, he's already got to this level. He understands this level already. But he's going further. He says, I don't even want to come back to a realm like this one. You know, I'm tired of even this kind of realm. I don't want to live in a realm where, you know, you get born, you grow up, you get old and you die. And there's no other, it's just this over and over the same story, same story. Every living person who's ever lived in this country, getting born, growing up, getting educated, eating, and then dying, you know. And it's just meaningless. So I don't want to go through that anymore. You know, losing everything you own, losing every nice thing about your life, your health, your vitality, your friends, your family, the things you own, your own mind, your own intellect. Sometimes I think I wouldn't mind losing my health so much, but when my brain goes, it's going to be really bad, you know. And I enjoy my brain, and I enjoy what I know, and I'll lose it, you know. And I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. That's Kevuding. I don't even want to be in this kind of place anymore. Okay, working to get out of this kind of place. Okay. I'll put the English up here so you can see it. We could do your homework in Tibetan or English. I know Bruce is going to memorize the whole thing in Tibetan. Say Kebu, Chembo. Kebu, Chembo. Kebu means person. Chembo means big motivation, high level motivation. This person also doesn't want to come back to a place like this, or to come back to a worse place than this. But on top of that, they don't want anyone else to come back to this place either. They want to help other people get out of that trouble as well. That's called Mahayana, okay? Mahayana motivation. Big path, big vehicle, okay? And that kind of person doesn't even want anyone else to go through it either. They will do whatever they have to do to help other people get out of it also, okay? Those are the 3 levels of motivation. That pretty much covers your homework. We could do questions for like 5 minutes if you have anything specific, or you could go home and sleep. Yeah? My Lama always says, if no one asks a question, he says, I'm glad you know it perfectly. You know? Okay.
So is there a correlation between the 3 principles and motivation?
That's a good question. They talk about it. Like, this person obviously has renunciation. To get out of the lower realms, you may not necessarily have to have that kind of love. Okay, path number 2. But to stay out of the lower realms, which happens at the second of the 5 paths, you must have an intellectual understanding of emptiness. You don't have to have perceived it directly, but you must have understood it intellectually, which happens at the path of preparation at the Supa level. You can no longer take a lower birth. So this person, to achieve his goals, he must have the first path, renunciation. He doesn't necessarily have to have the second path, which is compassion, but he must understand emptiness to an extent, not necessarily seen it directly. Okay, this person wants to reach a thing called nirvana. Okay, very interesting. This person wants to reach nirvana. The definition of nirvana, and we'll talk more about it, is Nyundip Malupa Pame Sosotango, which means eliminating your bad thoughts permanently. No more anger, no more jealousy, no more anything like that. Okay? Because you have seen emptiness directly. Sosotango. And that's a long subject. But anyway, this person, to reach nirvana, is going to have renunciation, first path. They don't have to have compassion at all, or not like this person. And they are going to have to see emptiness directly. They have to have the third path in its sweetest form, the direct perception of emptiness. Otherwise, you cannot remove bad thoughts. Impossible. Okay. The third level person wants to reach Buddhahood, and they're going to need all 3 paths. They need compassion. So that's how the 3 paths relate to these 3 motivations. This guy needs path number 1 and half of path number 3. This guy needs all of path number 1 and all of path number 3. And this guy needs path 1, 2, and 3 to help other beings. Okay. You had a question? Yeah.
It doesn't at the second path you have to have some love and compassion
Yeah.
to accumulate the merit to
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
have the concentration
Yeah.
to get out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't be like, yeah. You do need a certain amount. Like, for example, instead of calling them the 4 immeasurables, you know, like limitless love, limitless compassion, or whatever, limitless equanimity, you could have a limited love, a limited compassion, and they have. It's called Sangben Neshi, the 4 levels of Brahma or something, in the Abhidharma. And you don't have to have ultimate compassion. You know. Okay, so that's how the 3 motivations connect to the 3 paths. What time we start tomorrow?
9.
Okay, so I think better we go home and try to get to bed early. Tomorrow's going to be a long day mentally. And it's very vital for you. It's very important for you. So, you know, try to get some rest and have a nice breakfast and come all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, okay? Seriously, okay? Because it's going to be a hard day. It's hard to cover that much in one day, okay? We have to do a short prayer, okay? Can you lead this prayer? We're going to do mandala and then loa, yeah. So we're going to do the mandala, which is the first prayer. And then we're going to do the ngoa, which I think is the third one.
Yeah.
And Bruce is going to lead it, because my voice is not that great. Okay, here we go. The last one is a prayer that, by the way, it was written by Nagarjuna. And it's by the good deed that we all did tonight, may all beings reach totally pure body that we talked about, and the totally pure state of mind. Okay, and that's the meaning of that verse. Okay. Thank you for getting me here. And I also want to thank Bruce. We met each other 20 years ago or something in New Jersey, and it's a great thing. I mean, Bloomington, I told him at the airport, it's a small town on the American map, and it's a big town on the Buddhist map. And it's really nice to be here, and I'm very happy that you have this place. And I've heard many good things about what's going on in Bloomington as far as Buddhism, and you've had so many great lamas here, and you're very blessed that way. So just happy that you're doing it. Okay. I stole 10% of your virtue by rejoicing. You know this? That's a custom. I mean, they say if you're happy about someone else's good deeds, you get 10%. Seriously. Yeah. No, don't steal that. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. It's very great what you're doing too. Yeah. Okay. Good night. Okay.
So tomorrow night, 7 to 8:30 in Conference.